This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. Kanawha Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosting an array of events from Civil War reenactments to diesel truck pulls. More information online at virginiarodeo.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. So what do you do? Information about getting involved in advanced technology careers, making everything from clean energy to life-saving medicine, is available at dreamitdoitvirginia.com. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and I don't know when I've had the opportunity to welcome two former cabinet secretaries and people who've moved on doing other positions. Barry DuVal served in the cabinet and now with the chamber. Preston Bryant served in the cabinet. Your areas were a little different, commerce and trade and natural resources, but both of you cabinet members in the past, in the recent past, and also people involved in the Chamber of Commerce. Barry is the president and CEO, and Preston in your role now over in McGuireWoods, and I've got to get your entire title, Senior Vice President for Infrastructure and Economic Development at McGuireWoods Consulting. We want to bring our viewers up to date some on the blueprint that's been worked on for some time. So Barry, tell us some about what the Chamber's doing, and then lead us into talking about Blueprint Virginia.
Yeah, David, thank you for having me back to talk about the Virginia State Chamber of Commerce and the business plan for the Commonwealth that we've been working on this year. I think I was here in the spring of this year and indicated to you that the State Chamber had decided to work with local chambers and regional economic development groups on a new business plan for Virginia to focus on areas of economic competitiveness that impact Virginia going forward, and to share ideas with both campaigns for governor along the way, and then to adopt this plan at the end of 2013 and present it to the governor-elect at an economic summit to be held after the election. Well, I'm pleased to report to you and those who are watching that we've had over 7,000 businesses participate in Blueprint Virginia.
Wow.
It has been very well received. The business community regionally throughout the Commonwealth has gathered with our local chambers. We've surveyed them on matters important to their region. We've surveyed them on issues important to Virginia, and we've asked them what the next governor of Virginia should focus on to keep Virginia competitive. And it has been amazing at the response from the business community and the results of that survey, which I can share with you in a minute. But in short, we've looked at each area of economic competitiveness, and we've created industry councils around those areas. And we are pleased with the progress and the momentum that we've had so far.
Wow, that's been quite a momentous task, and everyone running for office, local office, statewide office, are talking about jobs. So they need to know what the blueprint is to actually then to come through and to help create those jobs.
Right. Well, one of the areas that we approached was not just regionally, but how does Virginia compete competitively, and what are the key elements? And so we are developing a strategy around workforce and education. We have an industry council for that. We're developing a strategy around improving Virginia's health care. We have an industry council for that. as well as several other areas of economic competitiveness. One of the areas that's important to Virginia is energy. And we recognize that it's critical to all businesses and all citizens of the Commonwealth. And we're so pleased that Preston Bryant, with his background, having been the former Secretary of Natural Resources, and now in his professional capacity with McGuireWoods, has agreed to help lead the effort around energy. And I'm glad he's here today to help talk about that particular issue.
Well, Preston, how did the Chamber go about preparing this portion of the blueprint on energy?
Well, we listened a lot. Barry and his leadership and folks at the Chamber said, let's go out and not presume anything. Let's listen to businesses, large and small. Let's listen to homeowners. Let's listen to industry, the big manufacturing plants. Let's listen to consumers. Let's listen to environmental advocates and just see what they have to say. So without presuming anything, we went out and we had 2 town hall meetings, both of which were very well attended. We had one in Richmond and we had one in Roanoke. And the Richmond one, we had folks come up from down from Northern Virginia and from Hampton Roads or from Charlottesville. And in the Roanoke Town Hall meeting, folks came from all over Southwest and Western Virginia. So they were very well attended. And people participated very much. These town hall meetings went on for a couple of hours, so we got lots of input. What we wanted to do first is kind of lay a baseline as to just what Virginia's energy landscape is. What are we doing today? How are we using energy? How are we generating energy? What does our energy infrastructure look like? Let's match that against what policymakers, legislators, and governors have been talking about, generally speaking, in terms of energy, and see how they match up. So with that baseline and listening and getting lots of input, then we were able to go out and start putting a lot of that together and reporting back to the Chamber. And we, as Barry said, want to present all of these, not just on energy, but in healthcare and transportation, education, and the like, to the next governor, whoever that may be.
So what kind of energy do we generate in Virginia?
Well, Virginia is we import about as much energy as we generate from within our borders. In terms of our uses, not surprising to anyone, the biggest users by sector of energy are transportation and our homes. And then you get down to the grocery stores and other commercial and industrial users as well. In terms of how we are generating energy, again, Virginia being a coal state, it's not surprising that most of our energy comes from coal, and then second would be coming from nuclear power. We have 4 nuclear reactors in Virginia, and then natural gas and petroleum and renewables add a lot of generation as well.
Yeah, we'll put some figures up on the screen for our viewers, and just to illustrate the part, as you were saying, about coal. So if we put the numbers up first on the generating, the use in Virginia, it's interesting to see, as you said, coal's at the top with about 45%.
Coal is at about 45%. Obviously, we have a great deal of coal in Southwest Virginia. It's been a historic economic staple in Southwest Virginia, but coal is not the industry that it used to be, going back decades and decades. Coal jobs peaked out in about 1980, and then there was a lot of innovation and automation in terms of extraction of coal. And coal production, how much we actually pull out of the ground, peaked at about 1990. And so since that time, since the early 90s, we've been pulling out less and less and less coal from Virginia coal mines each year. And so all the more reason that the Chamber and others recognize that we need to very much diversify the southwestern Virginia economy, because coal is still a big industry. It's still got a lot of people employed. Several thousand, 5,000 people are employed in coal, but it's not the huge industry that it was 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 years ago.
So if you had a snapshot of a decade or two ago, it'd probably been more than 45%.
It would have been more than 45%. And it is still the largest, it's where we get most of our coal, most of our energy from. Mm-hmm. And then second would be, again, nuclear energy. Dominion Power has 4 reactors, and they actually have a 5th that they're considering building.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that something that wouldn't have been on the scene probably a generation ago would be renewables.
Yeah.
That's a small portion, but when someone says renewables, what kind of renewables
Well, renewables would be classified as anything that's kind of not petroleum. It doesn't put a lot of CO2, carbon dioxide in the air. You've got wind and solar, and you've got biomass where people are burning wood and switchgrass and those things that can be renewed. And so it's an alternative energy, and even conventional energy companies like Dominion and Appalachian Power are also getting more and more into renewable energy. Sometimes by law they must to diversify their energy portfolio, but it's also to their bottom line best interest to be diversifying their portfolio, because there are lots of ups and downs in the coal market and in the solar market. There are lots of ups and downs in energy generally, especially the natural gas market. So it's in Dominion's best interest, it's in Appalachian Power's best interest to diversify their portfolio to guard against those fluctuations in various energy sectors.
Yeah, say a little bit more about natural gas, because it does rank about third behind the other big two, and the prices have been very low recently for natural gas.
Natural gas is coming on strong, and it has been for the last 3 or 4 years, because we've seen almost a historic low in natural gas prices, and that has come about for one principal reason: fracking. The technology that we have developed in this country to dig deeper and to extract natural gas out of rocks is really advanced. Especially, we're finding a lot of new natural gas in places like Pennsylvania and West Virginia, and even a little bit in far southwest Virginia. But natural gas is now increasingly plentiful, and the law of supply and demand being what it is, we've got a lot of natural gas now, so the cost is going down. And you're seeing a lot of conventional energy industries and companies like Dominion, for example, who have, in Appalachian Power, who have historically used coal to run a lot of their electricity generating facilities. They are now converting from coal to natural gas, because natural gas is so cheap these days they almost can't afford not to. So natural gas is big. We have about 6,000 miles of natural gas transmission lines running all over Virginia. We've got a lot of natural gas.
You mentioned earlier about how Virginia is using all this energy, and we'll put some of those numbers up on the screen too, so that people can see them, because I think you said that transportation and residential were kind of the top two.
Transportation is big. It's roughly a third. Residential use of electricity is between a quarter and a third, as I recall. Virginia is a fast-growing state. If you think back to 1960, Virginia had about 4 million people. Today we have just over 8 million people. So we have doubled our population in just a half century. And the pace has especially quickened, as we all know, in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads over the last 20 years. So as our population grows, our energy demand grows a lot as well. And frankly, the reason we import so much energy from outside of Virginia is because we can't generate enough in Virginia to meet our growing demand. We need, just in the Dominion territory alone, which is roughly half the state, a little more than half the state, we probably need 4 or 5 or 6 more average-sized power plants just to keep up with the growing demand of our fast-paced population. And so when you think about homes and residential energy use, that's why we have a lot more people. When you think about transportation and all the cars that go along with having a lot more people, we use a lot of oil and a lot of petroleum in Virginia to keep up with our fast-growing population. So it stands to good reason and common sense why residential and transportation are the biggest energy sector users of energy.
So why don't we have more generating within the Commonwealth? Is it because it's cheaper to get it from outside, or is it not in my backyard? You know, build one in your backyard or his, but not in mine? Or why don't we?
I guess it's a little of all the above. Yes, it's not easy to get permits for and site a new, especially coal-producing power plant.
Or even nuclear, probably.
Nuclear. Dominion built a state-of-the-art coal-fired power plant in Wise County about 4 or 5 years ago. I think it came online just a couple of years ago. It was a $1.5 billion power plant. And it took years to get it permitted and even more years, obviously, to get it constructed. Dominion, as I said, they've got 4 nuclear reactors right now. They would like to build a 5th. Obviously, that's very economic dependent. And today, with natural gas prices being so low, when Dominion or anybody, whether it's Dominion and Appalachian Power, goes to the State Corporation Commission to try to get permission to build a new electricity generating facility, whether it's coal or nuclear or whatever the case may be, it's a numbers game. And the regulators look at it to see if it's in the best interest of consumers, those who pay the electricity bill every month, you and me. Is it in our best interest to build this kind of electricity generating station or that kind, coal or nuclear or wind? And it's got to pass a numbers test.
Oh, so what about wind? Are we going to be seeing some big wind turbines off the shore there at Virginia Beach or Buckaroo Beach or the other beaches out in Virginia? What's going to be happening in that?
I'm personally a big supporter of offshore wind, always have been. It
goes back to your natural resources.
It does. It goes back to my environmental days.
Yeah.
It doesn't emit anything bad into the air, but it's expensive. It costs a lot of money to build wind turbines, hundreds and hundreds of wind turbines out in the Atlantic Ocean. And nowhere in the country has there been offshore wind turbines built to date. Massachusetts is likely to be the first state, and they have already approved a plan, and their state regulators have approved a plan, so that's underway, but they haven't started building yet. In Virginia, just last month, Dominion won the right. They won a bid. They participated in an auction with the federal government for the right to build wind turbines, 2,000 or 3,000 megawatts worth, about 25 miles off the coast of Virginia Beach. So they won that auction for the right to be able to do that in federal waters. State waters only go about 3 miles off Virginia's coast. Anything more than 3 miles, you get into federal waters. But it's going to be 10 years anyway. Dominion, now that they've won the right to develop offshore wind, they have to go through a very extensive permitting and planning stage even before they get to construction. So your question is, are we going to see offshore wind turbines anytime soon? Probably not. It'll probably be a good 10 years out, but there are many people who have their eyes on that as we speak.
And even then, we won't be able to see them from the coast.
You won't be able to see them. It's something called the Admiral's Mile, which is 12 miles out. If you're sunbathing on Virginia Beach and you look out on the horizon, it's about 12 miles that you see before the horizon meets the water.
Yeah.
And so these wind turbines are 25 miles out, so you won't be able to see them.
Out of sight,
Yeah.
out of sight. What in the blueprint and the energy area is going to help keep Virginia competitive in a global market? Preston or Bryant, either one on that. Because I know there's real concern about, we're not just isolated here in Virginia and even isolated among the 48 states here.
Well, first, I want to say that Preston was the right person to head up our industry council
Oh, he
on
knows
energy.
it. Yeah.
And all the other industry councils are led by equally qualified and knowledgeable individuals. And I just want to thank Preston for his leadership. And through the listening process, we have been able to come to some recommendations that we'll be putting forward within Blueprint Virginia about where we want to see Virginia 8 years from now from an energy perspective. What's really the vision and the goals of the business community in Virginia and those who participated in the process to see our energy policy shaped over the next 8 years. To the extent that we can do that in Richmond and work with the next governor and work with the next members of the General Assembly, we will be doing that. To the extent that we need to be the voice of Virginia business in Washington, we'll be working with our 2 U.S. senators and our congressmen on energy policy in the future. So I think Preston has done a great job, and I want to thank him and his firm for their support in this process. Likewise, we have other robust analysis in other areas, David, that we can talk about as well.
So in the blueprint, is there any kind of recommendation to the next governor, next General Assembly about?
Yeah. On energy matters, we didn't pretend to get into the fine weeds and suggest really, really specific things to the next governor. We would like to work, the Chamber would like to work with the next governor
Right.
and help fill in the details, because the new governor will want to be doing his own listening tour to businesses and industries and homeowners and others. One thing that's a real truism, no matter who you talk to, is that energy efficiency is always the number one. It's the cheapest way to create energy is to not use any more energy than you have to. So that's always the number one, and we outlined for the governor, the next governor, ideas on doing more energy efficiency. Second, we have said during this show that Virginia generates or imports more energy
Right.
than we generate within our own borders. And so we also have some ideas about how to make the environmental permitting of power plants and other generating facilities easier, streamlining some permitting processes and giving preferential permitting to those kinds of facilities that build in really extraordinary sustainable practices and other green practices. So we think permitting, making it easier and rewarding folks for doing the right thing, so to speak, in terms of electricity generation, can be an incentive for them in the permitting process, which can be very expensive. And then third, we looked at energy assessment and energy investment, wanting to do more of that. Energy planning is what the state, frankly, we haven't done a lot of it. And what we have done, some would say we haven't done very well. So energy planning and energy investment, we have to track better and do better. And then last is consumer education. There's a lot of consumer education out there on how consumers can make smart energy choices, but they're usually at the state level. And we really need to get that consumer education on energy matters down to the retail level, the local level, where it's more easily accessible and it's more applicable to their everyday lives. And so we look forward to working with the Chamber and the next governor to try to fill in the blanks on some of those broad recommendations.
So Barry, what's the timing to finalize this? This is October. Election's coming up in November.
Yeah. Well, we are finalizing the plan as we speak. We have advisory board with leadership from the regions and the industry councils coming together in the next few days. We'll be making final recommendations to our steering committee and board of directors by the end of October. And you'll see a very positive pro-business business plan for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Coming out of this process, we've been working with the Council on Virginia's Future that has helped us with analytics and helping to benchmark. And we'll be putting forward a plan for the next governor and the next members of the General Assembly to help keep Virginia more competitive and help guard against some of the threats that we're facing as a Commonwealth as it relates to diversification of our economy, downsizing of defense spending, and competition from abroad. So we're looking forward to presenting this November 20th. We'll also want to, for those listening, encourage people to go to our website at vachamber.com and look at our energy conference, which we're going to hold and host for this governor October 15th, 16th, and 17th. So we'd encourage people interested more in the subjects that Preston's talking about to go to our website at vachamber.com, register for the energy conference, and then also November 20th, they can come to the Economic Summit where we roll out all the Blueprint for Virginia. And I want to thank all the listeners who've participated in Blueprint. And thank you, David, for your support of this initiative. And thanks to Preston for his leadership of our Energy Industry Council.
I think everyone would agree that it's so important. The energy area is so important. The other areas are important. And as I maybe said a few minutes ago, everyone running for office talks about jobs. But whether a person be governor or any position, they can't create jobs all on their own. They
Right.
need a good workforce, and they need business. They need the capital. They need the investment. And so, will this be now the first time that there's a blueprint provided to an incoming administration?
Yeah, to the best of our knowledge, it's the first time the business community in the state has organized itself around a concerted effort, both regionally and statewide, to present an incoming governor a business plan for the future. We hope that it will help the next governor hit the ground running. They'll have an obligation by the General Assembly to create their own strategic plan within 6 months. I had to do that as Secretary of Commerce and give it to the governor to present to the General Assembly. We think it will help provide a foundation for the next governor, and we hope to be a part of helping the next governor with all the research we've done, come up with their own strategic plan for their 4-year period of time that they will serve. But again, it is the first time that we know that an organization like the State Chamber has facilitated a business plan for the Commonwealth.
Barry DuVal, Preston Bryant, two former cabinet secretaries, two people still involved in Virginia's economy. Thank you so much for being on This Week in Richmond and talking with our viewers.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. Kanawha Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosting an array of events from Civil War reenactments to diesel truck pulls. More information online at virginiarodeo.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. So what do you do? Information about getting involved in advanced technology careers, making everything from clean energy to life-saving medicine, is available at dreamitdoitvirginia.com. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.